Oblivion has tons of way to dispatch enemies, whether you use big weapons or crazy destruction magic. But what if you took away all of that and only used restoration magic instead? Today I'll find out if you can beat Oblivion while only using restoration magic. Let's begin. I began by having nightmares of Patrick Stewart talking about the end of the world and started to make my character. I chose High Elf as my race as the description said they were the best at magic, only to find out that my restoration skill started at 5. I named myself Do-Gooder and decided to create a face that exemplified his restorative nature. I got into an argument with my cell neighbor and then my nightmares manifested themselves. Patrick Stewart and his goons broke into my cell, and he started talking about my destiny. One of the guards opened a secret path in my cell, and by sheer luck, or maybe fate, I was allowed to follow. We got attacked by cultists, but the guards dispatched them quickly. I don't know what it is, but watching people fight in Oblivion is the funniest thing ever. I contributed to the battle by tenderizing the fresh cultist meat, and the guards decided to let me try my hand at being an adventurer. A skeever jumped out at me, and the real challenge could begin. I ransacked everything I could find while spamming restoration to keep myself alive as I ran through the tutorial. I put on some armor to try and soften the attacks I was taking and ran for my life. A group of skeevers were relentless at taking bites out of my legs as I tried to run away, but the goblins were worse. I ran past every monster until I regrouped with Patrick and the gang. They wanted Patrick to talk to me, so I avoided him as long as I could and made him work for it. But due to some kind of long-range witchcraft, he caught me and asked me what my birth sign was. Now, there's a ton of different ones to choose from, and a lot of them will make for future runs, but this time I chose the mage for more magicka out of the gate, since I figured I'd be spamming restoration for a while. Patrick went Hawthorne Heights on me and started talking all sad-like, but his guards interrupted before he could do a sick breakdown. We made our way deeper into the secret passageway, and this was the moment I dreaded. We had become so close during this 10-minute intro, but alas, the budget from Mr. Stewart had run its course. It was time to off his character. He stared at me happily, gave me the Amulet of Kings, then cued his own death. An assassin jumped out from a hidden path and hit him so hard he leapt into the air. Wanting to leave no witnesses, the assassin attacked me, and I spammed healing until the guards came to save me. The guards were understandably upset, but then told me of Patrick's offspring that I could go find and give him the Amulet of Kings. I made a custom class focusing on running away and healing and went on my way. I made it outside to the world and then realized I had been playing the game wrong this entire time. I thought restoration could only heal the user. I didn't realize you could steal someone else's health and use that to heal you. I had officially found a way to damage and heal at the same time. With this newfound knowledge, I made my way to Joffrey, who could point me in the direction of Sean Bean. I had to head to Kvatch and find him among some priests there. I ransacked Joffrey's belongings and headed out for adventure. When I got closer, people were running and shouting, and even the sky started to turn red. Turns out, Kvatch had a recent Oblivion gate open up, and to aid the soldiers, I decided to help out. Oblivion was a hellscape, and the scamps here were doing crazy damage. My restoration skills were doing almost nothing, so I recruited a guard to act as my meat shield so I could close the gate. He helped a lot and even made it the majority of the way into the tower, but crumbled under the many scamps and their fireballs. Without a steady source of damage, I knew what I had to do. I ran and checked every room I could for the way to shut down the gate. After some running around, I found the sigil key, and a guy in a cage told me how to shut down the whole operation. I had to find the sigil stone and remove it. I finally found the way to go and got chased by a Daedric guard and pulled the plug on the Oblivion gate. I teleported outside and showed off my skills to the guards. They were so impressed that they wanted me to help take back the town. I couldn't say no to a chance to show off again, so off we went to kick out the Daedric presence. The assault started off pretty well. We took back the courtyard and made our way inside the keep after regaining our breath. We made our way to the castle gate, clearing out the area near it. However, with the gate closed, we would need someone to go around and open the gate for the troops. Guess who got volunteered for that one? I was told I'd have to go through the guardhouse and swing around. It sounded easy enough. I went back to the chapel to grab the key and recruited some guards to accompany me on my mission. Except the scamps in the area proved to be way more difficult than I had anticipated. The guards were quickly cut down and I was left on my own. Eventually, I swung around the gate and opened it for the rest of the soldiers to come through. I also learned that the default difficulty for Oblivion is insane when doing challenge runs and decided to help myself just a little. With newfound power, I was actually able to combat scamps. I was still shocked to see that a couple of them could still put up a fight. Unfortunately, by the time I made it inside the castle, everyone else had died. I grabbed a ring off the count and brought it back for show and tell. Savlian was so happy he undressed in front of me, smiling creepily, and gave me his shirt. He told me where I could find Sean Bean and the quest could continue. I didn't waste time heading over, but he had a hard time taking all the new info in, but eventually agreed to come with me so we could talk to Joffrey. Turns out while I was gone, Joffrey was making new friends. Wayne and Priory was under attack when I returned. After dispatching the cultists, we met up. Sadly, the Amulet of Kings, my last memory of Patrick Stewart, had been stolen. Realizing we couldn't do anything just yet, we took Sean back to the Blades hideout to make sure he could be kept safe. Although I decided to make a quick stop. I went to the Imperial City to see if I could get new spells, got lost, admired the moon, then attempted to break into a store. The guards didn't like it, and I got the best line ever.
Stop right there, criminal scum. Nobody breaks the law on my watch. I'm confiscating your stolen goods. Now pay your fine, or it's off to jail.
It was only a small fine, so I paid it and went back to my main mission. New spells would have to wait. We arrived at the Blades hideout. Sean Bean gave a speech, and then I talked to Joffrey about getting my necklace back. He told me of a contact in the Imperial City who would be able to help me track down the cultists. However, I went off looking for spells again. I did find some this time, but none that would deal more damage. I didn't like it, but it was starting to look like I would be stuck doing the run with minimum damage. I met up with the contact, helped him kill a cultist, and he agreed to help me track down the necklace thieves. Turns out a lizard at the Arcane University is an expert on cultists, and I'd have to get him to share his knowledge, if I stood a chance of finding them. Apparently, these cultists wrote all of their findings in their diaries, and I'd have to find all 4 editions to make sense of it all. I already had 2, so finding 2 more books didn't seem so bad. I had a lead on book 3. There was a deal supposed to go down, so I figured if I went to the shop and spoke to the owner, he'd hand it over. That didn't go so well, so I decided to wait for the purchaser to come pick up his book. Turns out, this book purchaser was a slippery one and had come in, got his book, and left without me noticing. I tracked him down to his tavern and harassed him until he handed over the book. Turns out, this book came with instructions on a meetup in the sewers with cultist higher-ups. After a slog through the sewers, I was in the meetup spot ready for whatever was coming next. I began the meeting, I got up, and apparently that told Boris to run in with his katana swinging. So I had to chase down the cultists and retrieve the last copy of their diary. After bringing it back to the lizard scholar, he took 2 whole days to analyze the works and found that at noon a map would appear in town. Sure enough, he was right. A map showed up leading to the cultist hideout. It was time to plan an infiltration. I began to head up for the hideout when I was stopped by someone trying to sell me a horse, but when I refused, she kept telling me to stop talking. I couldn't allow this, so I stole her life force. Of course, the guards also didn't like this. I couldn't pay my bounty and the chase began. I led them through the mountains and escaped, all while winding up at the cultist hideout. They invited me to join their secret club and even gave me matching robes to suit. I watched a ritual take place and the main guy pieced out with my necklace, so I decided to help the others piece out too. After freeing a captive, I made my way towards the exit while watching cultists jump for joy at their demise. I returned to Joffrey and he told me of spies appearing near our fortress. They needed to be taken care of. I ambushed a spy at a glowing rock, but had to find one more. I was then sent to speak with the captain of the guard for the whereabouts for the second spy's location, but I had forgotten I had a bounty on my head. I thought I could rush my way to the main objective, only to find a room full of guards waiting for me. What commenced was 5 minutes of struggling to stay alive. I even had to take out the captain himself. After the dust had settled, the captain woke up and completely disregarded his slain comrades. He even gave me info on the other spy. I left the barracks only to be pursued throughout the city, broke into someone's house and found a hidden basement housing further intel. I made my way back to the glowing rock and killed the other spy. Turns out this is a common place for them to hang out. Sean being happy with the lack of spies, told me I needed to acquire a Daedric artifact. He told me of the Shrine of Azuna, but before I could spill its secret, I had to give an offering. Luckily, a will-o-wisp had the sacrifice I needed, but Azuna said I had to go to sleep and level up before I could begin my quest. After my rest and leveling up 6 times, Azuna told me of a mine full of followers who would become vampires. If I cleared them out, I'd have my artifact. This is where I noticed the game difficulty jump. Normal enemies had basic weapons and normal health, even on easy mode, but this cave had 2 different swords that drained my magic, and I even got a disease while fighting these vampires. Through tons of baiting attacks and waiting on my magicka to refill, I finally cleared the cave and could claim my artifact. I brought it back to Sean Bean and he turned me over to Joffrey. Turns out I needed to show others how to close these Oblivion gates since I couldn't close all of them by myself. I found the group of soldiers and in we went. Turns out as you level up, you start to notice new enemies, so while it was nice having bodyguards for a while, they didn't last long against the new opposition. I did make it to the sigil stone with the guard still alive, only for him to go unconscious at the very end, but the gate was closed and I considered that a win. Joffrey was happy and Sean Bean decided to progress the plot. Turns out we needed a special blood, and the only way to get it was by finding a suit of armor worn by Tiber Septim. Luckily, there was a crypt that housed the armor, but apparently it had been cursed and was now full of ghosts. I think you know where this is going. Yes, yours truly became a ghostbuster and cleared out the crypt. Turns out some of the reanimated skeletons were once old blades, and after freeing them, they agreed to help remove the curse and allow me to grab the armor. I brought it back, and now I needed a supercharged stone to finalize Sean Bean's master plan. By combining his shopping list of items, I would be one step closer to getting my necklace back. There was no time to lose. I made my way over Speedy Quick, and this place had it all when it came to monsters. There were skeletons, goblins, even zombies. By this point, my restoration spell was struggling to do decent damage, so I needed to get a new one quick. I cleared out the dungeon and found my prize, but the king of the dungeon didn't agree with me, so I had to put him down. After returning with the stone, I was told that the last piece would be the hardest to get. Up until this point, I had been running small-time errands to collect ritual pieces. The final piece was actually the sigil stone of a greater Oblivion gate, and to summon it, we would have to draw multiple little gates to get a greater gate to summon. So to do this, we had to go stir up some trouble. I figured this would be a tough fight, so I went and found a person that sold higher level restoration spells and finally got an upgrade. Now that that was sorted, I made my way back to the battleground. Sean Bean gave a moving speech and the battle began. The new spell I got was crazy. It drained tons of health, but also drained tons of magicka. We fought bravely and eventually the mega gate opened. After jumping inside, I got lost a couple of times. That and the timer that showed up in the corner had me stressing. But I ran around long enough and dodged enough bad guys that I found the sigil stone and pulled the plug on the mega gate. Sean Bean told me that he had everything to complete the ritual and that whatever I needed to do it quick. After getting everything together, it was time to start the ritual. Sean Bean informed me that I would teleport over to a paradise created by the Necklace Thief. I jumped through the portal and made my way through scamps and clan fears aplenty. Nothing could stop me. After running through a cave system of cultists and monsters, I arrived face to face with the Necklace Thief himself. What was once a peaceful room turned into all-out chaos. Summons happened, cultists were transforming, and my magicka was being drained left and right. It was struggle street for a while, but eventually I killed my target and grabbed my memoir of Patrick Stewart, reunited at last. I hopped in a portal to meet back with Sean Bean and gave him my necklace. The universe was complete, but the moment was short-lived. We went into a council meeting about what the next course of action was, and the town fell under attack. Gates opened up everywhere, and the cultists even summoned God himself to attack the city. People were dying all around, and my restoration wasn't going to kill God. So since the bad guys cheated, we were allowed to cheat. Sean Bean, equipped with my necklace, transformed into a dragon and royally shit on God. Like it was a one-sided fight, there was no contest at all. Once he was done flexing and the day had been saved, he turned into a statue for the rest of time, and with that, I beat Oblivion, only using restoration. This run was anything other than what I expected, since I planned on being as low a level as possible to survive combat, but the fact that restoration has damage spells really saved us here. Once we started fighting things that could drain our magic, that's when things got dicey, but bouncing around like a rabbit really helps for avoiding damage. A ton of time goes into making these videos, so as always, if you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe and stick around for the next one. I'll see you then.
When the next Elder Scroll